My name is Maggie Conley, and I am a MSW candidate at the University of Washington, Tacoma, and the title of my capstone is Supporting Family Members and Caregivers to Address Depressive Symptoms Among the Elderly. So on January 21st, 2020, Washington State reported the first case of COVID-19 in the United States. Therefore, historically, literature and research on COVID-19 only goes back so far. What we do know is that the risk of catching COVID-19 is greater in those who are 65 years and older. Catching the virus for a vulnerable adult could mean severe illness, hospitalization, long-term effects, and even death. Because of that fear that has been brought on, the elder, they are more prone to isolation, which can then lead to depression. Social isolation among older adults is a serious public health concern because of their heightened risk of cardiovascular, autoimmune, and mental health problems, just to name a few. So to begin, I started working with the elderly when I was 16, and I have not stopped since. I knew that working with the elderly and geriatrics in general was my calling early on. I was a wait staff at a retirement facility all throughout high school. I was a CNA at the same facility while I was receiving my bachelor's degree. I worked for a nonprofit working with vulnerable adults, and my practicum was at a retirement facility to which I was hired on as a full-time social worker, which is my current position. We were shut down for some time due to an outbreak. So I personally witnessed isolation and saw depression in the residents I work with. Families were unable to visit, activities were shut down. We have several residents who are Catholics, so they were unable to receive communion, which truly affected them. All meals had to be eaten in the residents' rooms, and so on. As an elder, social stimulation is so important. I would really like for caregivers and family members to be knowledgeable about the signs and symptoms of depression among older adults who may be experiencing increased isolation during COVID-19. That way, we can then better facilitate timely identification of this depression and to seek out the necessary treatments. My ultimate goal is to aid older adults to seek help for depression without judgment, and for families and caregivers to become aware of the signs of depression, to then be able to share concerns with the social worker, me, in order to get that resident the correct and necessary treatment. I have heard this several times from elders. Depression is a topic that was not talked about in their time, quote unquote. Some elders may not understand what they're feeling, or they may just be keeping it buried inside them. I really want to break that stigma, and I want them to feel open to accepting some form of treatment. And I also want them to understand that treatment does not always mean medication. So my intervention is to produce a pamphlet that will be readily available for staff and families. These pamphlets will list signs and symptoms of depression in the elderly related to COVID-19 and isolation. Signs and symptoms will be based on talking with our on-site psychiatrist, who I have a good rapport with, symptoms from DSM-5, and other resources such as talking with our medical director, who also comes on campus. I want our elders to not be afraid to speak out about depression, and that they do have somebody advocating for them, even if they may not realize it. I want families and caregivers to recognize the warning signs of depression and to be able to bring their concerns to me. If I'm not aware that something is going on with one of my residents, then I am not doing my job. As I stated previously, geriatrics is one subject that is so near and dear to my heart. It has always been my passion, and I knew, again, from the beginning that I was going to be working with the elderly as my career. The way I see it, we will all be elderly one day. I thank you for taking the time to be here, for listening to my presentation, and I do hope you have a good rest of your evening. Thank you.